You are tuned in to On Air with Chris Shanafelt. Welcome back on Air with Chris Shanafelt as we continue our Player Spotlight series with the 2020 NFL Draft Class. And I'm now joined by Nick Wheeler, defensive end, outside linebacker out of Colgate University. Nick, I really appreciate you taking the time this evening. How's everything going?
Everything's going great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine, Nick. Congratulations on all the success that you've had over the past 4 years at Colgate. And I want to start this interview off by just asking you to start off by sharing your journey to Colgate, Nick. How did you land at Colgate University coming out of high school? Being from St. Louis, Missouri, what was the recruiting scene like for you, and how did you ultimately land in Hamilton, New York?
The recruiting scene for me started kind of like the spring of junior year. Had coaches coming in talking to me. Received my first offer from Indiana State early in the summer going into senior year. Played 7 games, ended up getting hurt, missing the rest of the season. A lot of coaches fell off on the recruiting trail, not really knowing if I'd be able to play football again. And then Coach J.B. Brown was the coach that was recruiting St. Louis at the time, the outside linebackers coach. And he came to the school and asked Coach Pingle if, he had anybody, and he was just really persistent. We started talking in the end of November, early December, and then, went up for an official visit and just fell in love with the place. It's such an amazing school.
You would go on and see action in 7 games as a freshman. You recorded 3 sacks, and then you became a starter as a sophomore, Nick, in 2017, where you led the Patriot League with 11.5 sacks and 15.5 tackles for loss. How were you able to come in and make your presence felt from the get-go?
Just being a student of the game and talking to the seniors, the upperclassmen, and just trying to gain all the knowledge that I can. Coming in as a freshman, obviously you never really expect to play much, but I was just one of those guys that was always in the upperclassmen ear, just asking them little tips and little things that I could do to better my game. And I was lucky enough to show the coaches during practice, like I'm someone that they can rely on, someone that's going to go out there and do their job. And then once I finally got my opportunity, I was able to put it on the field and actually have some success with it.
Yeah, you certainly did. As I mentioned, as a sophomore, you lead the conference in sacks and TFLs. Your first couple of years, Nick, you played on the same defensive line as Pat Afriye, who had to stint with the LA Chargers, and now he's in the Canadian Football League. How are you guys able to complement each other on the defensive line? And has he given you any advice as you now look to follow his footsteps into the professional football world?
Just being able to complement each other, just being able to play off of him and realize that a lot of teams are going to slide the protection in his direction, and they were more concerned about me, so it left me with a lot of one-on-one opportunities. Backside, just realizing I had to take advantage. Once I started to gather some stats into the book, it was kind of tough for teams to decide which way to go. So that was one way that we complemented each other. And then as far as this whole process goes, his main thing is just be yourself. Don't be someone that you aren't. Teams know who you are, obviously, from doing their research. So if you go into it and you try to be someone that you aren't, then they're going to, it's going to raise questions. They're going to have doubts about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Teams have probably talked to people that you're probably unfamiliar that they talked to or reached out to. That's how much research these organizations put into this process. Going back to the 2018 season, Nick, that was a very special year for the Colgate football team. You guys finished the regular season 10-1. You guys held opposing teams in 5 games to scoreless games, to zeros on the scoreboard. Colgate actually hosted a FCS playoff game for the first time since 2003. You guys defeated James Madison University that afternoon, 23-20. How special was that season, just looking back, and how rewarding was it to get a taste of the playoffs and make a run that season?
Oh man, it was amazing. We just played spectacular football. Everyone felt like a big family. You could go from seniors to freshmen, and everyone felt like they were really close. It was a really great year. We realized the turning point of my sophomore year. Like halfway through the season, we put it all together and we realized we had a lot coming back on the team, and why should that stop us from what we were going to do next year? So we kind of took that and we ran with that all off season, and that was kind of our motivation. It was like, hey, what could have been our sophomore year when we tied with Lehigh and we didn't get into the playoffs. So that was kind of the motivation that we had. And then hosting the game against DMU was just really special. I mean, it was great atmosphere. We normally don't have a lot of people come to our games, but I mean, to step on that field and see the stands on both sides of the field just filled up, the energy on the field, the energy off the field was just something that was just spectacular.
And then looking back at this past season as a senior, Nick, things didn't go as planned as a team, but individually you continue to make noise in the backfield. You tracked down 18 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks. You finished your Colgate career as the program's all-time leader in sacks with 33, and now here you are preparing for the next level. Looking back, what would you say is the most memorable play that you've made over the past 4 years?
There's a lot. I mean, 30, like you said, 33 sacks is a lot. I would have to say it definitely was the first one of my career against Julian Davenport, who's now with the Miami Dolphins, was drafted 4th overall by the Houston Texans. I mean, you look at that guy, and just as a freshman coming in, that was my 3rd game of action. Then you look across, and you're going against this NFL prospect who's, 6'7", 325, 330 pounds. A lot of guys, you expect to be afraid of a situation like that, and I just, went ahead and just dove in. It was like, I'm going to give it everything that I have, and ultimately I was able to come away with a sack that game.
Again, we're talking with Nick Wheeler, defensive end out of Colgate University, 2020 NFL draft prospect. And, yeah, Nick, you mentioned the size that Julian Davenport offers as an offensive tackle. Some would say you, being a pass rusher, you are undersized at 6'2", 250. How have you been able to use that as your strength and become one of the best pass rushers in the country and, have success against guys that would go on to be NFL draft picks such as Julian Davenport?
One of the things that I like to watch, people that fit the mold of what they call an undersized pass rusher, guys like Von Miller, who's like 6'2", 250, Dwight Freeney, Elvis Dumersville, guys like that. And the one thing that they all use is their height to their advantage. I mean, you're going against guys every week that are 6'6", 6'7", and then you got to have, some really good bend around the edge, being able to get low on those guys. And those guys really don't want to get super low. They want to play upright. So that's kind of the advantage that I use, is just playing underneath tackles and just using my height to advantage to stay lower than them and just get around them.
And for you, Nick, when did you realize that you're going to go all in on pursuing a professional football career? How much more encouraging is it to see somebody like your teammate Pat Afriye get the opportunities that he's gotten, or fellow Patriot League D lineman Abdullah Anderson, who's been on the Bears the past couple of years? You mentioned Julian Davenport, somebody that you've had gone one-on-one with over the years, and then he turns himself into an NFL draft pick. Seeing guys cut from the same cloth as you make it to the top, does it reassure your decision that you have what it takes to make it?
The realization started in junior spring. There were some scouts that came in and do some measurables and things like that, and that's when it was like, hey, you got a shot. I mean, those guys wouldn't be coming here to talk to you if, you didn't have any opportunity. And as far as guys coming from the Patriot League playing ball there, playing at the next level, I mean, it just shows that if you can play, they'll always be able to find you. I mean, coming out, I thought Pat Afriye was one of the better, if not the best pass rusher to come out of the Patriot League. Being a younger guy, watching him play and just seeing the things that he was able to do, and just guys that come out of the Patriot League in general. I mean, granted, we're not one of the better conferences, and we're such a small conference that people kind of toss us to the side and don't really notice us. But, I mean, you look at those guys and you realize, hey, this conference has some really good football players and some guys that can get after it on the field.
No doubt about it. And, it seems like every year there's always at least a couple of prospects to look out for coming out of the Patriot League. You mentioned Julian Davenport. Nick, I'm curious, who's the best player you feel like you've gone up against? It could be an offensive lineman. It could be a quarterback, a running back, any position. Is there, any one specific player that stands out?
Without a doubt, Chase Edmonds. I mean, that guy was explosive. Watching that guy, playing against him for 2 years, I mean, we were able to hold him under 100 yards when we played him, but that was the goal, hold him under 100 and usually expect to win. But to watch that man on film and watch him, go against some teams, he has 250, 300, 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, and he's just exploding through the hole. He just looked like a different breed of athlete, and then come to realize that, in the same position as him, going through the same process, just comes to the realization that, I have what it takes.
Yeah, and of course, Edmonds turned himself into a fourth-round draft pick by the Arizona Cardinals, and he was able to have a nice impact on the offensive side of the football for the Cardinals last season. Nick, for those not familiar with your game, how would you describe it? What would you say is your biggest strength as a pass rusher?
Just my speed and my bend, just being able to get a jump on the tackle and being able to put pressure on him just with my speed to make him uncomfortable, and then my bend being able to stay low and just get around the edge to put pressure on the quarterback and ultimately put pressure on the tackle to have to get there.
And I know that you said, it wasn't until about spring ball, your junior year, when this really started to, come through for you, and where you really thought that, you were going to pursue this professional football thing, Nick. But have you been able to meet with any scouts up to this point? Any conversations with any NFL teams? Any idea how the league is viewing you as a prospect?
I've talked with the Ravens, the Jets, the Giants, and there was one more team at the CGS. And they're viewing me kind of like a pass rush guy, like a situational guy. My agent has talked to a great amount of teams. So the one thing they really want to see from me right now is just my pro day numbers and see how I stack up against the rest of the competition.
You know what, Nick? I was unaware that you participated in the College Gridiron Showcase down in Fort Worth, Texas. What was that experience like, especially being one of these quote-unquote smaller school prospects? Nick, what was that like to go up against some, D1 level talent and, showcase what you have to offer to all 32 NFL teams?
I participated in the Gridiron Showcase, small school showcase. So it was FCS and lower the first few days at the showcase. I mean, being able to just get out there and, put on the pads again and just being able to practice in front of scouts and then get a scrimmage in front of scouts, just being able to show my talent and show the things that I'm able to do on the field. I mean, it was a great experience. Being able to talk to some of those guys, just trying to understand things that you can work on, things that, they see as positive for you. So it was a really great experience.
And, Nick, I know that you would like to play for any of the 32 NFL organizations out there, but we are here in Chicago. I got to ask you, what would it be like to play for the Chicago Bears, a legendary organization, and then obviously being able to learn from and then playing opposite side of somebody like the magnitude of a Khalil Mack? Again, just a hypothetical, what would that situation be like for you?
I mean, it'd be a great situation. You play for an organization like the Chicago Bears. There's so much history, especially on the defensive side of the ball with the 85 Bears. It's within 5 hours from home, so I know a great amount of family would want to come up for games. But, I mean, just being able to play across from someone like Khalil Mack, I mean, that's just something that you just got to take the opportunity and just do your best to run with it. I mean, that guy's going to receive pretty much all the attention every down, especially on third down. So, I mean, getting out there and just lining up across from him, you realize that, if he isn't getting the pressure, then it has to come from somewhere, and why not be me?
And they've added defensive line talent from the Patriot League once before with Abdullah Anderson just a couple years ago from Bucknell. And we will see if they do it once again with Nick Wheeler of Colgate, 2020 NFL Draft Prospect out of Colgate University. Nick, just a couple more questions for you, and then I'll let you go. Really do appreciate your time. Pro Day, obviously, will be probably the biggest day for you throughout this draft process, right up there with the CGS. Where are you training at for your Pro Day, and when and where will your Pro Day take place at?
I'm currently training at Grossetti's Performance in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, and my Pro Day will be at Army on March 24th.
Any goals that you have in mind? Any specific numbers you'd like to record?
There are a lot of goals on the bench, above 25, looking for the 26 to 28 range. On the 40, I've been running in the mid 4.6s, so looking to get that down. Hopefully high 4.5s would be, really amazing for me. In the 5.10.5, looking to get that down to about the 4.2s, and then in the 3 cone, anything under 7 seconds, I'd be really happy with.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you could hit any of those goals, any of those numbers, that'll really help your draft stock out a bunch. Final question for you, Nick, and then I'll let you go. It's a question I end all my prospect interviews with, and that is, let's say we have all 32 NFL general managers listening to this very interview. Why should they want the pass rusher Nick Wheeler out of Colgate University a part of their team?
They're going to get someone that's going to do their job. They're going to get someone that's going to be a team player, whether it's on the defensive side of the ball or in all four phases of special teams. They're going to get someone that's going to be dedicated to the game, and they're going to get someone that's a student of the game. They're going to get someone that's going to, be studying the film hard, someone that's going to be studying the playbook hard, and come game time, they're going to get someone that's reliable and someone that's going to be able to do their job 100%.
I don't think you can say it any better. Nick, really appreciate your time this evening. Congratulations on all the success that you've had over the past 4 years at Colgate University, being one of the top pass rushers in the FCS in the country, and really looking forward to seeing what these next couple of months have in store for you. And, of course, best of luck at your pro day.
Thank you.